All right, today we're talking about how to lie with statistics. And look, this isn't some guide on how to become a master manipulator. It's the opposite. We're going to learn the tricks of the trade so that you can spot the lies and protect yourself from them.
You've probably heard this one before, right? Lies, damned lies, and statistics. It just perfectly captures the whole idea. I mean, we're all taught that numbers don't lie, that they're just facts. But this quote, it's a wake-up call that those same numbers can be twisted into some of the most convincing lies you'll ever hear.
And that's where our guide for today comes in. Darrell Huff's classic, How to Lie with Statistics. Now, he called it a manual for swindlers, which sounds pretty bad, right? But his whole point was, and I love this line, the crooks already know these tricks. Honest men must learn them in self-defense. It's like learning martial arts, not to start fights, but to know how to handle them.
So, let's do that. To build our defense, we've got to get inside the mind of a swindler. Let's take a look at their favorite weapons.
And here's the real problem, right? The very language of statistics, it just sounds so official, so true. It's got this built-in authority. But that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. In the wrong hands, that same language is the perfect tool to make things sound way more dramatic, to blow things out of proportion, or just to confuse you until you give up. Okay, first up is probably the single biggest sin in statistics, the deceitful sample. You know, if the foundation of a house is crooked, the whole thing is going to be a mess, right? It's the same here. So the very first question you have to ask yourself is, who did they actually ask? So let's look at this classic example from the book. Imagine you see this in the paper. The average Yale man, class of 24, makes $25,111 a year. I mean, wow, it's so specific, down to the dollar. From Yale, it just screams truth, doesn't it? And remember, 25 grand back then, that was a huge amount of money. But wait a second. Before we all start applying to Yale, we need to stop and ask that key question. Who's missing from this number? Who didn't make it into their fancy average? And boom, this is where the whole thing falls apart. Think about it. First, they can only survey the people they can find, right? The ones with known addresses. So what about the folks who weren't doing so well? Probably off the radar. Then, who's actually going to fill out a survey about their income? The people who are proud of it, of course. And let's be real, people tend to round up when it comes to salary. So what you're really seeing isn't the average Yale grad. It's the average of the easiest to find, proudest, and maybe most boastful ones. All right, on to the next trick. And this one, oh, it's so simple, but it's so sneaky. It all comes down to one little, tiny, innocent-looking word, average. Okay, picture this. A real estate agent, slick suit, big smile, is trying to sell you a house. They lean in and say, you know, the average income in this neighborhood is a cool 10,000 pounds a year. You think, wow, okay, sounds like a pretty nice area. But then, fast forward a bit. A local group is fighting a tax hike, and their argument is that folks here just can't afford it because, get this, the average income in the exact same neighborhood is only $2,000 a year. So what's going on here? Who's lying? The agent or the community group? Well, here's the crazy part. Maybe nobody is. Both of those numbers can be totally 100% true. How on earth is that possible? Well, the secret is that the word average is a slippery little devil. It can actually mean three different things. There's the mean, which is what we all learned in school. Add it all up, divide by the number of people. Then there's the median, which is the person right in the middle if you line everyone up from poorest to richest. And finally, the mode, which is just the most common salary in the group. And that solves our mystery. Think about that neighborhood. Let's say you have a bunch of people making modest salaries, but then you've got one billionaire living on the hill. That billionaire's income is going to yank the mean average way, way up. That's your $10,000 figure. But the median, the guy in the middle, or the mode, the most common salary, is going to stay way down at that $2,000 level. It's the same exact data, but depending on which average you pick, you can tell two completely different stories. Okay, now we get to my favorite part, lying with pictures. Because look, a misleading number is one thing, but a misleading chart, that's next level. Our brains are just wired to believe what we see. And oh boy, do people know how to take advantage of that. Take a look at these two charts. On the left, you've got the honest version, a 10% increase. Looks like a nice, gentle climb. Now look at the one on the right. It's the exact same data, but see what they did? They just chopped the bottom off the graph. All of a sudden, that same 10% looks like a rocket ship taking off. They call this the Gee-Whiz Graph, and its only job is to trick your eyes into thinking a small change is a massive one.
And here's another great visual trick. Let's say you want to show that one company's profit is double another's. The honest way is to draw a money bag that's twice as tall. Simple. But a sneaky person, they'll draw it twice as tall and twice as wide. Now, mathematically, the height is still double. But your brain doesn't see height, it sees area. So that 2x increase now looks like a 4x increase. It's an incredible way to exaggerate something without technically lying about the numbers. Okay, wow. So we've got biased samples, tricky averages, misleading graphs. It can feel like you can't trust anything, right? But here's the good news. You absolutely can fight back. So let's talk about your toolkit for spotting the truth. And the best part is, you don't need a PhD in statistics to do this, not at all. All you need is a little bit of healthy skepticism and the courage to ask a few basic questions.
So here it is, your 3-question toolkit. Anytime you see a statistic, just run it through this mental checklist. First, who says so? I mean, who's paying for this study? What's their angle? Always look for the bias. Second, how do they know? This is where you think about the sample. Did they talk to enough people? Was it a biased group like those Yale grads? And third, and this is a big one, what's missing? Are they telling you which average they used? Did they chop the bottom off the graph? Is there some key piece of context they're just not telling you?
That's it. Just by asking those few simple questions, you can start to cut through all the noise and all the nonsense we see every single day. The numbers start to lose their power to fool you. So the real question now isn't just about what we talked about here, it's about what you're going to do with it. You know the tricks now, so what lies are you going to uncover?